Hello, everybody.
Morning, Rabbi.
How's it going?
Everything's good.
Good, good, good. Welcome back.
Hi, Richard. Hi,
Hi,
Jen.
Delia. Hi, Janet.
Hi.
Glad to have everybody. And unless we got any questions for before, we can just sort of jump in, I guess.
Are you coming back on Friday?
I'm not.
Oh, you're not.
Yeah, we tried to work it out so I could do
It's
that. It
far.
was
Yeah.
Yeah, it was based on, I mean, look, I mean, the family's availability had to come first, obviously, so that's what they needed. So yeah, but no, it's being taken care of.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, people died when we didn't have a rabbi. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So we're yeah. So
Yeah. I was
we'll
just curious.
no worries, no worries. All right. Well, dum.
Whew.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What have we got? Feel like it was like 112, something like that. We're talking about interruptions. Bowing. Oh, let's talk about bowing. Let's do some bowing. Okay. Not to be confused with the aeronautic company Boeing.
Mm.
Um,
I'm sorry.
it's oh no no I no you're
I,
entirely
it's
right.
okay. It runs in my family. It's okay.
It's all right. All right. These are the blessings in which we bow. Now we know this, right? In
Yeah.
Avot, the first blessing, beginning and end, right? When we and by
Right.
bowing we're talking about Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch atah
Right.
Adonai, right?
Yeah. Right.
In Hoda'ah, the second to last blessing, where we say Modim anachnu lach
Right.
at
Right.
the beginning and end, right? Because there's a Baruch atah Adonai at the end of the Modim.
I didn't know that one. Okay.
Yeah. And if one comes to bow at the end of every blessing or at its beginning, we teach the person one does not bow, but in the blessings middles, one may bow. I'm not sure if I understand this.
You can bow in the middle, but not at the beginning or the end. Is that what it's saying?
Yeah, but in their middles, one may bow. That's strange. I don't think they're and the blessings middle as opposed to the person's middle, like their stomachs or something. Yeah, I'm not sure what that's about. Let me see if V'im ba lishchot besof kol bracha uvat chila melamdim oto shelo yishchat aval be'emsi tan yachol lishchot. Um,
Sorry.
yeah, I don't really know what I mean. I guess the one thing I can say is that you're not supposed to bow at every blessing because I mean the blessings are supposed to be special. I mean, like, or like it's not, if you do it every time, it's not as meaningful, I guess, if you do that.
Mm.
But I don't understand this. The
And it's okay
the
to
the
do it in the middle.
middle. Yeah, I'm not really sure what that's about.
Maybe it's enthusiasm. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So that one's a little puzzling to me. Um, okay. Now, by the way, when we bow, is something that we've attempted to, in the Sidur Lev Shalem, we've attempted to create a little symbol to
Oh,
to bow. I don't know if you've noticed this.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
no. I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to look.
let me see. I'm gonna try to draw it on here.
All right, I'm gonna go get my lip showing and look.
Yeah. So it looks here, I'm gonna change the color to red because it is red in here. And it looks basically like this. It's like, okay, like I mean, first of all, keep in mind, I cannot draw. I mean, I'm a terrible uh, artist. But it looks kind of like this. It looks like that.
Right, right.
Sure, I
Would
would know that meant bow.
Yeah, I mean, I look at that and it looks like the person is bowing in an anatomically
On one
impossible
foot, yeah.
way. It's
Yeah.
like
Like
they're
an ostrich with its head in the
That looks
sand.
like what I do while I'm making my coffee from my knees. Yeah. All right.
yeah. I mean, to me, it looks like somebody's, putting their head between their legs. I mean, it really does. And so, I mean, look, maybe there's some advanced yoga that I'm not aware of that
Well,
allows somebody to do that. But I know, I'm being a little facetious here. I would think that it
kidding.
might be better to do something like, like here's a stick figure, da da da. Okay, and
maybe
then
tell the editors for the next edition, you know?
seriously, I mean,
That looks like somebody's gonna hug.
yeah, well, I mean, well, better that than
Sure it is.
anything else. I mean, like, but maybe to make it so that they're doing this.
I'm having trouble finding. Ah, here we are, Amida. Okay, let's go back to the beginning of the Amida. Ah,
Yeah, I again, I
Here we
mean,
are.
like the drawings are just not
Is it?
great
Oh, there
here.
is a little symbol.
There is a little symbol, isn't there?
I
Yeah.
see it. You know what? I have to tell you, old people, and consider the age of this congregation.
Right,
Although we do have new ones.
Thank you, Janice.
I'm sorry. I mean, my husband and I need a lot of light because I have a condition, and I would never be able to see that in the sanctuary, that little red thing. I'm lucky we can see the black on white. I need a lot of light. The sanctuary doesn't have enough light, but now with my flashlight, I can see it. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
like, I mean, and
Close
I mean,
now.
I mean, I look at it and I mean, to me, it looks like a noodle, like
It doesn't look like a
I
bow,
get
no.
hungry for pasta.
They could have just made something bending over. I don't know.
Yeah. So look, I don't know what look, I don't know the artistic
Oh,
logic
there it
necessarily,
is. Yeah.
but it's cute. I mean,
Okay.
it's a cute little symbol, I
Well,
guess.
but now I'll look for it.
Right.
Okay.
And so
Thank
like
you.
no worries. I mean, so for instance, like the avot, right? The first blessing of the Amidah, you did the beginning of the end. One of the ones where it's commonly the one thing I think that's most commonly misunderstood is that at the second blessing, the Gevurot, it doesn't start with a bracha, but it ends with a bracha.
Right.
I think that because the first two Baruch Atah Adonai phrases have bowing, a lot of people like to bow at that one, at that one too.
That's good.
Which is not the time that you're supposed to do it.
Huh. Okay.
Now, of course, the question is,
Are you going to
which is not,
bow? Yeah, I'm sorry.
well, no, I mean, like, but why?
I was kidding. Yeah.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. But like the over idea of like why here and not there, right? What is it about these prayers?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's no real, and I don't think there's a real reason. I think this is just at some point, some person or some community started a practice of bowing at certain points, and then the idea spread. I really think that it's as simple as that. Like, it's not a matter of, okay, this person did it, or that, look, there obviously was no edict from anywhere about when you bow and when you don't. I mean, I will say that, which I know this isn't the same thing, but the Aleinu during the Musaf Amidah of the high holidays, when there is a custom for people to bow to the point where they are literally, flat on the ground.
Yeah, I would never be able to get up. Yep. Okay.
Sure. So I do that. Rachel Brown, who has been, leading our, she
Yeah.
she said to me, she's like, I don't feel comfortable going all the way to the ground. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, she bows. She just doesn't, go all the way to the ground. Okay, that's
Yeah.
that's certainly her choice. And but honestly, I mean, it's the sort of thing where everyone should be given the opportunity to go all the way down to the ground. Very few people do it. I mean, really, besides besides like the rabbi and the cantor potentially, and then maybe a couple of other people. So not a lot of people do that. These just kind of become look, this is just one of those things where the custom emerged, and then we just kind of said, okay, well, these are the rules now. Now maybe there's a bit of information that I'm missing here, but that's always how it seemed to me.
This is all man-made, so
Right. I mean, I would say so too.
It's
So
the sacrifices. So I mean, it wasn't like there was a blueprint for this. This is the blueprint. And somebody
Right.
had to design it. The architects did it.
It's also minhag, right? I mean,
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
mhm.
So here's something that these are things I didn't know. Those who have the custom to bow on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when they say Zochreinu, and I'll tell you about that in a moment, remember us, and Mi Chamocha, who is like you, which are the insertions into the first blessing of the Amidah. Actually, to be perfectly clear about it, it's the insertions into the first two blessings of the Amidah. Right? So Zochreinu is what we add during the high holidays for Avot. So Zochreinu lechaim elecha b'chaim, right? And then in Gevurot, in the second one, we do Mi chamocha av harachamim zocher yitzurav, like that.
Yeah.
So I guess
We're supposed to bow?
Well, I guess there are those who have had that custom. I've never seen it. But those who bow there need to straighten themselves up when they reach the end of the blessing. So what I'm picturing is something to the effect of, okay, I feel like I need to, if you'll give me a second here, let's see if I can. I feel like I need to show this on the Machzor to really kind of describe what I think is going on here. So if you'll indulge me for a moment while I set that up.
Yeah.
It is a I mean, it's a useful thing. But do I have it close by? I don't know if I have this. Oh no, here's where I have it. So sorry, no, I mean, I have like 3 different Google Drives.
You print Google Drives?
I have 3 different Google Drives. And like, in other words, I have 3 different Google accounts, Gmail accounts.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see.
And they all have different
Sure.
like drives in which I keep, digital
Oh man,
content.
Yeah. Okay.
So okay. So now let me okay, so all right, so now I've got that queued up. Let me share my screen.
Huh.
Okay, so hold on. Da, da, da. Okay. So this is the um evening Amidah, like this is Erev Rosh Hashanah. This is the evening
Right.
Amidah. Or actually we also use it for a couple of things. So first of all, you see the little symbol that we described earlier,
Yeah,
right? In terms of bowing, right? That this is a nice
I'm so
uh
excited.
point of view there, right? So Baruch
Uh-huh.
Atah Adonai. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the beginning of Avot. This is the beginning of that first blessing.
You know what?
Okay.
It's a head bowing. That's what it is. It's a head leaning forward.
It's a head leaning forward.
It's a
Okay.
head leaning forward. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
see that. I
Yeah.
I thought it was somebody's entire torso
No,
contorted
it's
itself.
just it's just a head.
It's just that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what what they're describing now is, so you see on this page
Yeah.
that symbol appears again at the Baruch Atah Adonai that closes it out,
Oh yeah.
right?
Uh,
However, now what's being described is that instead of bowing at Baruch Atah Adonai,
yeah.
they're describing that if you look at the very top of this page here, where it says Zochreinu L'chaim,
Yeah.
instead you start your bow there instead of the Baruch Atah Adonai.
Then why did they put the symbol?
Well, because I think it is this is a custom that is either no longer practiced or, like, I mean,
I see.
keep in mind, I mean, this is these are customs from, several hundred years ago. I mean, so it could be
Right.
that some people had the custom to start their bowing at Zochreinu L'chaim.
Right.
But what it's saying is that if you do it there, you got to straighten up for that, for the blessing, for when you actually get to the Baruch Atah Adonai. You got to straighten up for that part. So in other words, like, you don't bow twice in a row, like does in immediate succession,
Ah.
is the idea. At least the way I'm reading this. Now, what I find interesting then is that when you look at here, I'll put this at the top of the screen. Mi chamocha av harachamim. This is the end of the second paragraph of the Amidah.
Right.
That this insertion, mi chamocha, is a special insertion for the high holidays.
Okay.
There are those who who have had the custom of bowing here as well.
Mhm.
And so again, the idea is that, all right, if you do, if that is your custom, you got to straighten up by the time to get to Baruch Atah Adonai. So that's what we mean by all this. So again, I just felt that it would be helpful to have that in front of us, just for the time being. And now I can go back to Sefaria.
Oh.
Unfortunately, I need to queue up everything again, but that's okay. I don't mind doing that. Okay. So anyway, so that's what we're talking about here. Okay. So and remember, I mean, that's your that's Joseph Caro, right? That the Sephardic, that, or not, maybe not necessarily the Sephardic, but a Sephardic idea. Here comes an Ashkenazic one. This is the gloss. Even though in the blessing of Avot, bows at the end of the blessing, nevertheless, one needs to straighten a little at the end of Zochreinu so that it should be apparent that one is going back and bowing again because of the obligation to bow at the end of the blessing of Avot. Okay, so I actually read that wrong. So no. I mean, this is a different interpretation from what I understood, which is that The people who had the custom of bowing during Zochrenu also bowed at the second Baruch Atah Adonai.
Right. But I
All
think in order that you can bow again, you have to straighten up a little bit from the previous one, right?
You're saying you can't just stay
Otherwise,
down.
I mean, if you could just keep staying down, there is no bowing anymore, so.
Right.
So if you want to bow again, you have to straighten yourself up a
Right.
little bit before you bow again.
Right.
That's
Right.
why they say a little.
Right. Just to do a little bit. I mean,
It keeps you awake, exercise.
I mean, it is like, whenever I've like sort of taught about when you bow during the Amidah, like I call it prayer calisthenics.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And there have been times where, just due to different things in services, it's like, please rise, please be seated, please rise, like in relatively
Yom Kippur, let me tell
close
you, if you have
proximity.
a problem with a hip
Yeah.
or something like that, Yom Kippur will kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, yes. Hours. I mean, the afternoon, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
It's excruciating.
Sure.
Saying. And
Sure.
you want to do it. You don't want to, I mean, you always say if you're able, but you want to do it because Yom Kippur. But it's just like
Right. Yeah. I mean, you want to have, it's like, yeah, you want, you don't want to look like the person who's, necessarily. I mean, and listen, I mean, I think in some circumstances, look, you just, you do what you can do, and what you can't do, you can't do. Okay, fine. And I think most people understand that, but there are times where perhaps the emotion might be that you don't necessarily want to stick out.
Or you just want to do it because you want to do it. It isn't even sticking out. It's just,
Sure.
It's just, it's all right. This year will be easier though, because
yeah.
I have a new hip.
Yeah, I gotcha. So
it's a great thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I mean, I think that, I mean, working with kids at a summer camp, I feel like I've got the opposite issue, or something very different, which is that sometimes the kids won't stand up because they're not paying attention, and they don't care. Right? It's not about physical ability. It's about that they are, they're not interested. They're, or in some extreme cases, they're openly defiant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and so you're like, please rise.
Why would you go to a camp like that? Well, all right, never mind.
You get both ends. On the one hand, you have the youngsters, and then at the other end, you have us, alte Kacker.
Nice.
And think the kids who go to a camp like that would sort of be into it, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know. What do I know? I never did anything like that when I was growing up.
Well, I mean, I think there are times where, especially, I mean, especially since we, at Ramami, we do tefillah, we do our prayer services, relatively early in the morning. I mean, sometimes,
right.
So there are kids who are just like, especially as the summer goes on, they're like, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to, they'll just do that.
Yeah, and they get distracted easily.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the worst is when they're when the kids who are bored, they're playing cards during the service. This does
cards during the service.
They're doing that. Yeah, sometimes they are.
Like with physical cards.
Like with physical cards. Yeah,
that's kind of strange.
Yeah, and they're not supposed to, and it's like, yeah, they're not, and it becomes sort of a battleground.
Wow.
You're like, put your cards away. I don't want to. Give me give me the cards. I'm not going to. I mean, like it becomes wow.
I would have
This
had
is-
no idea. I mean, the kids who were there last year for the schmooze were so impressive and kind of, but they're the ones who came back for the schmooze. I mean,
I think you're dealing with, those are some of the best of the best. Those are some of
the ones who would be
the,
playing cards during the service. Yeah,
not usually,
no,
not usually.
Consequences for that kind of behavior?
It's one of the great challenges of modern camp life, honestly, is that there's supposed to be consequences, but do the consequences have any real teeth? You know, it's a little unclear. So I mean,
What are you going to do? Take away their dessert? You know? It's like-
right. I mean, there's a lot of I mean, you know, what you're able to do is you know, creating things with any, and punishments with any real teeth without it feeling oppressive is a real challenge.
Yeah, and you want them to come back, right?
Right, you want them to come back, and you still want it to be fun.
Right,
But there's like, but to teach, it's I mean, I think it's a challenge of, I mean, look, I grew up generally as a rule follower. Some people didn't or don't. Okay, fine. But
Yeah.
the idea of what we try to say is that, listen, if you don't believe these words, like, no one's going to force you to believe these words. No one's going to, but you have to be respectful. You have to be respectful of those who do. And it's a challenge with that. And then also sometimes the counselors are people that, I mean, you're trying to get staff who can be good examples. Well, some of them are good examples, and some of them,
Not so much.
well, not so much, at least when it comes to prayer, right? I mean, some of them,
Mhm.
maybe they're good counselors in general, but maybe they were the campers who hated going to services, but it's like, okay, now I've got to do this. Okay, fine, because they have strengths in other areas.
right.
And
How long is
so
this camp?
how long? 4 weeks.
Oh, okay. Because I'm thinking, I never had that much trouble as a Cub Scout or a Boy Scout leader. But the longest we had to do was a week,
Right.
in Boy Scouts, but they were like 11 and up, and they weren't all 11. And
Sure.
Cub Scouts
And
was the weekends, but I think that'd be a little hard if I had to manage them for
it's a little
4 weeks.
and also, I mean, listen, I mean, the idea, I mean, scouting is an area in which there's an it starts out with pretty high expectations in terms of comportment, which is not necessarily the case at your typical summer camp. I mean, it's I'm not saying that there are never Boy Scouts there, who would goof off. I'm just saying that that sort of baseline level of expectation is different. Okay, so all right, now I'm going to see if I can figure this out. Okay. One who bows when saying, Uvechol koma lefanecha tishtachaveh, which means in every upright shall prostrate oneself before you, or Ulecha anachnu modim, and to you alone we give thanks,
Right.
which is both so it's both from Nishmat Kol Chai. Nishmat Kol Chai being the prayer in Shabbat morning services, well, I mean, or holiday too, that is that leads into Yishtabach and the Baruch Hu. So it's basically at the end of Pesukei de Zemra. Neither of those parts are usually said aloud by the leader. So that's why that might be why these might sound a little obscure.
Yeah.
But those are a couple of places where, it's like, all right, I mean, it would make sense that when we say in our prayers, every upright one shall
Yeah.
prostrate oneself, it would make sense that, all right, you bow during that time, right?
Mm.
All right. So one who bows during those, or when saying Hoda'ah in Hallel or Birkat Hamazon, right? Like where in Hallel when we go, Hodu Ladonai Ki Tov, right? Like when we're doing that, or Birkat Hamazon, behold, this is improper, meaning that one doesn't bow other than in a place that the sages established. So what they're saying is, don't go making up other places where you're supposed to bow. Don't go, don't go and say like, oh, let's bow here too. Let's bow there too.
Would somebody do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure at some point. I mean, look, when it comes to, I mean, I don't think I have to. Maybe this probably goes without saying, but I mean, many of our rules in society in general emerge from somebody doing those things, right? I mean, like, I don't know if you ever read these things about like every state has at least a couple of laws that are still on the books from like 150 years ago that are completely ridiculous. Like for instance, I think I read that in Alabama, it's illegal to have a mustache that makes people laugh. Something like that, right? And I mean, there are these, and for whatever reason, those laws are still laws, not because anybody's not because the police are walking around looking for funny mustaches, but because no, because it's so it's so obscure that nobody bothered taking these rules off. Um, but why were those rules written in the first place? Was somebody imagining, one day there will be somebody with a crazy mustache? No, it's because something actually happened. Something actually happened where somebody had a mustache that people laughed at, and it turned into a big brawl. And so they decided, okay, well, let's make this a law now. In other words, rules are usually come from somebody actually uh dealing with somebody having a problem. Like, I mean, in other words, these things happened. Somebody actually did this once. So
Yeah, the laws happen from the bottom up, not from the top down, ideally.
right. I mean, it's like,
Mm.
because, like, again, if you were to I mean, if a bunch of lawmakers were to sit around saying, what problems do we need to solve? Let's deal with funny facial hair. And somebody else would probably look at them and saying, is this an issue? Is this really an issue? So yeah, it's not top down, it's bottom up. So I imagine that, yeah, somebody at least somebody at some point decided, all right, well, I'm going to add extra bows, and at some point, then people that the authorities, the religious authorities around them said,
No.
nope, can't just
Can't just bow whenever you want, huh?
yeah, no bowing improv here. Whether or not we think that it's such a bad thing or not, this is one of these rules that we have. You can't just establish other places to bow. Uh, you know, yeah. I mean, I don't know what to add here, but I think there's Okay, all right. Now here's how you bow. All right, I know we were all waiting for this. One who is praying needs to bend until all the vertebrae in one's spine stick out. One should not bow from one's hips with one's head remaining straight. Rather, one should also bow one's head like a reed.
Oh, so you're supposed to like bend over, not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Well, and
Well, I guess.
I understand that some of the Orthodox and the Karaites, they get down like the Muslims do. And is that just custom that
They don't do it.
other people don't get down that far, or just say someplace in there where you do get down on the floor and when you don't get down on the floor?
They don't routinely Orthodox don't routinely get on the floor.
I
My
haven't seen. I
experience,
mean,
anyway.
I mean, look, I haven't seen it. I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I haven't seen that in, times I've been in Orthodox synagogues, but it could be. I mean, but I
Well,
think
the Karaites do. Yeah, because I've seen videos
Yeah.
of them and said, well, that's very interesting, but I don't think I'm going to be getting up and down like that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I would say the Karaites are, I mean, there is a long-standing feud between the rabbis and the Karaites.
Mhm.
Right. But that's
Uh,
one of the things they're fighting over. Is it just somehow the non-Karaites stopped doing that, or they just didn't make that up, did they?
they might have made it up, and the reason why I say that is, look, I mean, when you look at the dispute between the Karaites and the rabbis, which was really at a peak, in sort of the early part of the Middle Ages, like the 8th, 9th, 10th centuries, thereabouts. What the Karaites were trying to establish was the idea of, we don't need to listen to the rabbis. We need to listen to the Torah, right? That was their claim, right? That, who are these rabbis to interpret the Torah? We just need to rely on the source. Now, the flaw in that argument, to me at least, is that pretty much everything we do is an interpretation. I'm not trying to say that the laws are, that to make every law vague, but what I'm trying to say is that, okay, for instance, if you go to a Shabbat observant home, they're not cooking, right? They're not, but they're eating, but they found ways to eat warm food, either because they, they made sure that the food stays warm, from before Shabbat began into Shabbat, or, in the case of, or of like a cholent or something like that, where they, it's on, they're heating it on low, right? They're heating it on a very low, it's a low flame, it's at a low setting, whatever it might be. So in rabbinic parlance, they found ways to uphold the laws against cooking on Shabbat and still enable one to eat hot food. The Karaites said, no, you can't do that. That's an interpretation. We don't go by that. And so the Karaite way is to not eat warm food on Shabbat at all. You only, Karaites just eat cold food on Shabbat. Well, all right, great. But that's an interpretation too. That's the part that they miss, right?
I think the meat and milk thing they interpret differently too. Like if they know that the cow and the milk aren't related, they'll eat them together.
Yeah, I've heard that exactly. If they, in
Yeah.
other words, if like, all right, if they're second cousins or whatever, they're okay. I mean, whatever it might be, right? No, I mean, so I think there's that. I think you also have, I mean, the other example I know of is that, you know, rabbinic law makes it possible that, you know, okay, yeah, if you're not turning lights on and off in your home on Shabbat, you know, you leave some lights on, or in some interpretations, you know, you set a timer or whatever it is. You find ways to, you know, to do that. You know, you leave the light on in your closet and you just close the closet door when it's time to go to sleep. Whatever, you know, I mean, there are a million ways to potentially do that. Karaites sit in the dark
Huh.
on Shabbat. And I'm not trying to say that to denigrate them. That's their understanding of not lighting, you know, not lighting a fire means you do not sit in light
Hmm.
when it's dark on Shabbat.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, okay, seems a little weird to me, but all right, but fine. I mean, but
Yeah.
but whether or
Okay.
not we, you know, but this is not to denigrate their practice, but rather to point out that it's an interpretation also. So that's where that's sort of the heart of the, you know, of and the reason why the Karaites wound up, you know, I mean, wound up kind of becoming, you know, going back to being a very obscure movement after a while, because people began to realize that, okay, you know, this is simply a different, you know, this, like, yeah, we have to interpret. I mean, it's impossible to not interpret things at a certain point, because the text of the Torah itself, I mean, just if you look at the text itself, does not account for every new and different scenario that there is. It just doesn't. It's impossible. Because, you know, the Torah is a fixed text, at least in terms of the words actually on the page, right? So, you know, I mean, you could easily say, like, you know, hey, I can, you know, I can, you know, I can, you know, I can surf the web on Shabbat because, well, the Torah doesn't say anything about computers. The Torah doesn't say anything about computers existing. In other words, if it isn't in the Torah, then it's fair game. You know, you can only take that to a certain extent. I mean, you have to be able to apply it to different scenarios of modern life. So I think that's why Karaites fell out of favor eventually.
Well, the hardest thing, it's like what you're saying, is this. It's easier to me. It seems you just got one book to worry about. You don't have to worry about it. And what do you have? You could have rabbis, but they don't. But you could still have somebody that's they have service leaders, and you could, I guess, you could have teachers. But the biggest issue is that there's no such thing as Reformed Karaites. There's just one, and it's like their version of being Orthodox. I mean, that's it. This, you know, there's not different branches of it for what I've been seeing. Of course, there's not one in the area to go, you know, to check out.
Sure. I mean, and that's, you know, I mean, and that's, look, that's very much true. I mean, we don't have, I mean, the development of Reform Judaism is 100% separate from the, you know, from the Karaite movement. I mean, whenever I would teach Jewish history in Jewish day school, I would always emphasize the idea that we have always had different movements of Jews looking at how to live religiously differently, right? In other words, the idea of, you know, Orthodox, conservative, reform. I remember, you know, growing up, and I remember at some point saying to someone like, so wait, so was Moses an Orthodox Jew? Was he conservative? Was he reform? And those categories didn't exist then.
Right.
Right. But if you but there have been different eras in which those where there have been um uh, contrasting and in many cases conflicting ways of leading an observant life. So while we have Orthodox conservative reform as your main umbrellas today, although there are numerous other smaller umbrellas and other vagaries that exist as well. You had the Hasidim against the Midnagdim.
Right.
You had times where Ashkenazic versus Sephardic was not simply a kind of an interesting contrast between two different ways of doing things, like where Ashkenazic and Sephardic, like it was tense. Like it could be tense sometimes about what the practice was. You go back, the Karaites versus the rabbis is another one. You go back to the Pharisees and the Sadducees. I mean, like there've always been different ways to slice these, to look at what it means to be observant. So what the next iteration is going to be, it's hard to know right now, but one thing I can almost guarantee is that there's not going to be one consensus about how to lead an observant life. There's no way. I mean, there's always going to be, so whether, one day are the conservative and reform movements going to merge into progressive Judaism? I mean, I think that might happen in my lifetime. I think that's possible. I don't know, but I think that's possible.
I hope it doesn't.
Okay, well, I mean, there will be people resisting it, no question.
I mean, they're very different.
In some ways, yeah.
I mean, the service. I mean, we did belong to a reformed. We belonged to Sharei Tefillah Israel for 24 years.
Yeah.
Until we left because the rabbi couldn't keep politics off the bima. Anyway, and then the independent minyan started with the whole fracas with Perry and Perry Fine and blah blah blah. Anyway, but they're so different, the services, reform and conservative.
Yeah. I mean,
but probably not. Maybe in your lifetime, not in mine. I don't think.
I think where it may be, what I think might happen is that, like, and this is obviously conjecture, right? Not any kind of. I have no inside information, but I mean, what I could see potentially happening is like the more left-wing side of the conservative movement might kind of blend in with reform. And then you may have and the more right-wing side of the conservative movement might blend into the I guess the most open-minded of the Orthodox.
So you're sort of suggesting that conservative Judaism will kind of disappear.
Or it'll be it'll be kind of in a different, it'll appear in kind of a different form, I mean, because look, there are some liberal Orthodox communities that mainstream Orthodoxy wants nothing to do with. And there's always, I mean, and goodness knows, there's always some Orthodox group that's going to, out Orthodox another group.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, when we were in Budapest the first time, we went to the big synagogue, and the pink one, I think. And before the Holocaust, it was sort of interesting. It almost appeared like Orthodoxy was evolving. Like the women and men all sat on the same level. Yeah. They were separate, but there was the women weren't upstairs, and I don't believe there was a mechitza. It was just they were separate. And then the Holocaust happened, and everything kind of froze. and the evolution stopped. At least that's the way it appeared to us.
Right.
So maybe, who knows? I don't know.
I mean,
80
we
years ago.
well, look, we know we talk often about look, we talk often about how quickly everything is changing. And yes, the rate of change in many aspects of our society is incredibly fast. With that said, though, it is helpful from time to time to look at the overall scope of Jewish history, which is, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And so what might feel like oh, well, this thing is well established. Well, when people look back on it, in 100 years, it's going to feel like, oh, no, it wasn't like that at all. One thing I can imagine is that, I mean, what we're doing right now, talking over Zoom, right? I mean, it was the stuff of science fiction to a couple generations ago, right? Safaria, what we just used. I mean, to be able to do that, it was. I mean, it's not like people never imagined it, but but it felt like still a dream at that point. Now it's an integral part of learning Torah these days. So, that's why I mean, I think that certain things are going to be recalibrated, right? I mean, so to say that, or to look, plenty of people have said, like, oh my gosh, is the conservative movement going to disappear? I don't think it's going to disappear. It's just going to, but I think that this way of approaching Judaism is going to recalibrate, and I think there will certainly be like the ideas that are sort of the hallmark of it will just be, it'll be organized differently, is what I'm
about the
guessing.
Reconstructionists, because they're kind of in between conservative and reform,
and sort of orthodox.
I don't know. Are they getting any bigger or smaller, or are they going to continue? You think?
I say this obviously as a very much an outside observer to it, but my sense of the history of Reconstructionism. I mean, Reconstructionism was born from the conservative movement.
Right.
Mordechai Kaplan was a professor was a professor at Jewish Theological Seminary. He was trying to get the conservative movement to adapt to some of his ideas. It didn't take hold in the way that he hoped, and he eventually founded Reconstructionism. There are areas of the country where Reconstructionism that are hotbeds of Reconstruction Judaism, Philadelphia being a big one.
Philadelphia, yeah.
That's where Reconstructionist rabbinic colleges, and there are numerous congregations. There are other places where Reconstructionism is just not a thing at all, or hardly at all. I mean, so I would say, so I might suggest that, like, I would be, curious, and maybe one time we can have as a guest to this lunch and learn. Maybe I can invite Rabbi Yehuva of J-Corps, who is a graduate of Reconstructionist Rabbinic College, who is a where she and her wife Dale have an associate membership at Hesed Emunah, and in many ways, and in some ways, blend in very nicely with some of what we do.
And she loves the traditional davening, so she loves the traditional davening.
Yeah, so I don't know whether it's taking hold, but I think that but I think the way I look at Reconstructionism, and please understand this, I'm not making this as a statement of American politics, but I do compare it to why it is so difficult for a third major political party in America to take hold. Because what happens when you try to have a third, like every so often you're like, people are tired of the Democrats and Republicans. We're going to have a third way. We're going to have a blah, 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 blah. All right, great. Right. And then there are a lot of people who were like, hey, that sounds good. That sounds good. We'd like to have an alternative. Well, what happens is, even if they're able to get it off the ground, the ideas from that third party are often absorbed by one or the other major party. Thus, like, in other words, they'll say, well, we stand for this. And then the Republicans will say, well, we stand for this too. So why don't you go over here? Or the Democrats will say, well, we stand for, we stand for this aspect of it. Why don't you come over here? So in other words, like the larger parties have wound up absorbing those ideas. And so what Reconstructionism has, like, one thing that has been a challenge, as I understand it, from Reconstructionism, is that they would take certain positions, and then before long, other movements would say, oh, well, we can do this too. We can make this work for us too. And then suddenly Reconstructionism loses some of the uniqueness, right? The very first bat mitzvah was Mordechai Kaplan's daughter. Right?
No kidding.
Right. And then, but all right, then Reform Judaism did bat mitzvahs, and then conservative, like, so after a bit, it's like there were some people who said, okay, I don't know how badly we necessarily need this. And then over time, Reconstructionism would take sort of bold stances, but then 10 years later, another movement followed it along. So it's not that I mean, it's just one of those things about how challenging it can be to it really just has to, a lot of it has to do with how challenging it can be to upend the establishment, whatever the establishment might be. So
yeah.
But again, I say this as an outside observer of Reconstructionism. Somebody, I mean, I'd be curious to know what somebody inside might have to say about it. So,
was Rabbi Shosh ordained through a
she was ordained in this I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's an independent online organization.
A lot of the stuff in the service that she sort of wrote is from, I went to a retreat center in upstate New York, Reconstruction. It used to be called Elat Chaim, and now it's got a bigger name because somebody gave a lot of money. Isabella.
Linda and Arnold used to go there.
Yeah, I went there several times in the 90s, and like some of the prayers were from there. Like Arthur Waskow. Yeah.
That's right.
The one that Marcus always reads.
Yeah, Jewish Renewal.
A lot of the stuff she uses look very familiar to me from there. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, and honestly, we're going to see more of this sort of blending in, because the central organizations that have generally ruled these movements have become weaker. Not saying they're disappearing. I'm not saying that they're irrelevant, but they're less powerful than they were before, and that means that means there's a little more of a but chaos is putting it to it's making it sound like it's a terrible thing. I mean, it's not necessarily bad. It's just there's a little more murkiness.
Right.
But from murkiness,
a little more creativity.
Exactly. Murkiness can, creativity can emerge from the murkiness, and that's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Rabbi Sauce is what I've saw.
Yeah.
Like, I've watched her services like every other Thursday night on Zoom.
Sure.
And it's called Sim Shalom, and it's called Jewish Universalism, and it's, from what I can tell, not just reading, but it's like one rabbi in New York started this, and he has an ordination thing. And there were people who, like me, that go to hers because I don't know her personally, but I have some contact with her. And I think a lot of them are the students there. A bunch of them, I think I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling that they were ordained through his whatever seminary / synagogue, but it's an online synagogue, but they do stuff live and in person in New York City because like they were showing I think you could go online, but they also had in person high holiday services, and they do a lot of how do you say, it's not exactly not religious music. Well, it's like her. She plays picks and grins, and I like that.
Sure,
and the guy that
sure.
does this.
Yeah.
All of those services are kind of like that, but I kind of just kind of go to try to keep up with when she's doing it because I may talk to her sometime up to his commander.
Sure. So there's yeah. I mean, so anyway, I want to let you guys go so that
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
There are Karaite communities in California.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's one only, but it's
One only now. Yeah,
that's
there
a long
used to be a few.
that's a long way to go.
Yeah.
Unless you're closer to go to Israel, which there's at least one, or go to California. It's like either one. I'm not going to drive there on a Friday night or Saturday morning anyway.
And
Well, yeah.
we used to, here in Tennessee, we used to have a Noahide community, which was in the Chattanooga area. And one of the members there came to Haskell for the high holidays.
Oh,
Okay. I've watched some of their services not services. They do not do services because the Orthodox rabbis who are like tutoring them say you can't start a new religion. I don't see how, but it's not up to me. But they think if they do services, they're creating a new religion, which I don't quite follow that. But that's I'm not in charge, and that's their tutor. But there's one of the guy that's real big in it, and like in Alcoa, and the other, he works in Chattanooga, but he lives in Saudi Daisy, which is kind of like on up the road towards Crossfield and stuff like that.
Well, I will. I guess the one thing I can say before I let you go is that, like, if I were to start a Karaite community, I would make sure to do so in a very obscure, very rural area. That way, I could call it Karaite in the Sticks.
Oh,
Okay. All right. With that, I will see you. I will see you next week if you dare to come back.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.